Welcome. In the year 1921, a new chapter of protest began across India. But it didn't start in the villages or on the farms. No, it started right in the middle of our bustling towns and cities. This was the beginning of the non-cooperation movement, and today we're going to understand how this powerful uprising in the towns really took shape.
Now, before we get into the details, I want you to just picture this scene for a moment. Imagine huge bonfires lighting up the streets at night. But these fires weren't filled with wood. They were filled with piles and piles of foreign-made cloth. This powerful image, this act of protest, was right at the heart of everything that was about to happen.
Okay, so here's our plan for today. First, we'll look at how the movement started in the towns. Then, we'll see who was really leading the charge. We'll explore the economic impact of the boycotts, and then we'll try to understand the challenges that caused the movement to slow down. We'll also see how one region, Madras, took a very different approach. And finally, we will sum up the overall legacy of this urban chapter.
So the first question we should ask is, why the cities? Why did the movement catch fire so quickly in these urban areas? Well, the answer is quite simple, really. The towns were the nerve centers of British power in India.
You see, the cities were the very centers of British administration. All the things that Mahatma Gandhi asked people to boycott, the government schools, the courts, the colonial offices, they were all located right here, in the cities. This made the towns the most logical place to start the fight for non-cooperation.
The first people to answer Gandhiji's call were the educated middle classes, and their response was immediate and it was widespread. It was truly a remarkable moment of personal sacrifice for a national cause.
Just think about the courage this took. Thousands and thousands of students, with their whole lives and careers ahead of them, simply walked away from their education because they believed that the fight for freedom was more important.
And it wasn't only the students. Their teachers and their headmasters also joined the movement. They resigned from their posts, leaving behind stable, secure jobs to stand in solidarity.
And this really shows you the level of commitment. We had established lawyers, many of whom are earning very well, who just gave up their practices. They walked away from the British legal system to support the movement. They chose Swaraj, or self-rule, over their own careers.
Now let's shift our focus to the economic front, because this is where the protest had some of its most dramatic effects. The idea was to hit the British Empire where it would hurt the most, in its pocket.
The call was clear: cripple the economic engine of the British Empire in India. And people responded with so much enthusiasm. They boycotted everything from foreign cloth to liquor, and even the merchants and traders refused to deal in foreign goods anymore.
And the results? Well, the results were simply staggering. Look at these numbers here. In just 1 year, the value of imported foreign cloth was almost cut in half. It dropped from 102 crore rupees down to 57 crore. This was a massive economic blow to British trade.
Naturally, this boycott created a huge gap in the market. As people stopped buying foreign cloth, the demand for Indian-made goods shot up. This led to a boom for our local textile mills and handlooms. This was the spirit of Swadeshi, of self-reliance, in action.
But this incredible energy in the cities could not last forever. The initial enthusiasm was very, very high, but soon it ran into some very real day-to-day problems.
You see, the main alternative to foreign cloth was khadi. It was a very powerful symbol of Indian self-reliance, but it came with one big challenge. It was quite expensive.
So this is the main point we need to understand. While the spirit of the boycott was very strong, the alternatives were just not practical for everyone. Poor people simply could not afford to buy khadi cloth. And for the students and teachers who had left British institutions, there were hardly any Indian schools or colleges for them to go to.
And so reality began to set in. People needed jobs to feed their families. Students needed to get back to their studies. And so, slowly but surely, people began to trickle back to the very government institutions they had so bravely left.
Now, it's interesting because while most of India was boycotting the council elections, there was one major exception. In Madras, the situation played out very differently.
And this was because of a group called the Justice Party. Now, the Justice Party was a political party of the non-Brahmins, and they had a very different way of looking at the situation.
For the Justice Party, these council elections were not a British trap to be boycotted. They saw it as a rare opportunity. It was a chance for them to actually enter the councils and gain some political power. Power that, in that region, had almost always been in the hands of the Brahmins.
So, after all of this, what should we take away from this first, urban phase of the non-cooperation movement? What did it really achieve in the end? Let's recap.
Well, the movement in the cities was the spark that truly lit the fire of non-cooperation across the country. It showed everyone the power of collective action, especially the power of an economic boycott. But it also taught an important lesson, that practical challenges could limit its success in the long run.
So, the urban chapter of the movement eventually closed, but the story was far from over. The passion and the energy didn't just disappear, it began to move. And the stage was now set for the peasants and the tribal communities of rural India to continue this great struggle in their own way.